Good evening, Rav
Good
David.
evening, good evening.
Did you notice they called you Rav David rather than Rabbi David? Did you notice, Rabbi?
When?
In the bulletin. What do you prefer?
Oh, no, I have no problem with that. I'm fine with any of those, as long as you don't call me late for dinner.
Okay. Now I wanted to make sure. If you prefer Rav David,
No, whichever you feel good about, I have no problem with it.
For me, it's the same thing. Really, I don't see any differences.
How are you? I hope that the fast was not too difficult.
Yes, no, the fast was not too difficult. And what is difficult is not to study Torah. That's difficult.
That is difficult. I actually, I did, this year at Chovevei, we learned the Hilchos Avelos.
Oh.
And so I am learning right now Hilchos Bikur Cholim.
Yes.
With my chavrusa, and so as a result, I am, which is connected to and comes right before Hilchos Avelos in Yeridea, and so I happened to be seeing something that pointed to a process for how one goes about changing in the God forbid situation that somebody is sufficiently sick that people want to change the person's name. There's a Rabbeinu Yerucham that has the process, and so although I didn't actually learn the process, I learned I knew the citation to it was to a whole chapter, and so the chapter deals primarily with Avelos. So I learned a lot of Avelos today, because Avelos is something that you're allowed to learn. But all right, it's good to see you as well, Hanan. I don't know if you can hear me, but you just walked away. I will wait until Hanan comes back, and then we will get started. I should go ahead? Okay. All right, so we're on the Mishnah on Kuf Mem Vav Amud Aleph. So today's daf is Kuf Mem Vav, and we're beginning with Kuf Mem Vav Amud Aleph at the Mishnah. This is a very important Mishnah for the concepts of opening packages, and you'll see why, because we'll get right into it. So, Shover Adam es hachavis le'echol himena gerogros. You're allowed to break a cask open, a barrel open, in order to eat dried figs from it. Okay? But you can't intend to make a vessel out of the barrel that is being opened. So that's the condition. So as long as that's the case, you're okay. All right. However, the ein nokvin megufa shel chavis, you're not allowed to create a hole in the stopper. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. But the Chachamim say no, you can make a hole in the stopper. And I had, let me just see, I had a picture. Let me see if I can get it up. I think it was on my other computer, so let me just, oh no, it was here. I just didn't have it. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back to here, and we'll share the screen, and we'll share this, and we'll go like that. Okay, and so this is called a bung, and and here, right here, you can see this is a barrel, and there's like a plug. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you got a barrel and you got this plug in it, and you can have a plug over here, you can have a plug up here, and then the question is can you make a hole in that plug? Rather than pulling out the plug, the other possibility would be to make a hole in the plug. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. I'm going to just stop the share and we'll get back to it. All right, so below yikvena mitzida, but oh no, now I need this the screen share again because I think it'll be useful. But you cannot. The rabbis say you can. So the rabbis say you can make a hole right here in the middle that goes straight through the cork. But if you make the hole over here on the side of the cork, and again, imagine that you've got it. You know, let's say you put the there's a stopper right over here, right? One of these corks is right in over here. If you put a hole at the bottom of the on the side of the cork, then what happens? So then, okay, below yikvena mitzida, you can't put a hole on its side, and because that we're going to see in the Gemara what this is talking about. We're going to see that you're essentially creating like a spout, and so that makes it like a new thing. Now, if it already had a hole in it, lo yitain aleha shava, then you cannot put wax on it. You can't sort of like make a new stopper for it, because we're concerned that you're going to smooth the wax. Rabbi Yehuda says, Masa, there was a case, Ba Lifnei Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ba'Arav. It came before Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in the town of Arab. Va'amar Hoshashani lo mechatas. I'm worried that he may be liable for a chata. So we're going to see basically every aspect of this is going to be discussed in the Gemara. So let's get straight to it. Rabbi Oshia. Rabbi Oshia says, Lo shanu ela drusus. So when it says that the Mishnah that you can open the barrel, that's only taught with respect to pressed figs. Why? But not loose figs. Okay, so we're going to have to understand. So what Rashi is going to help us here. Rashi explains, Lo shanu, right? To shover hachavis umetaltel hasayif lakach. That you cannot take a knife and carry it to open the chavis, to open the barrel. Why not? Ella berdrosus. Only if the figs that are inside it are pressed figs. Shagrozoros drusos beigel, that you have these pressed figs in a circle. And you're going to use some kind of sword or knife to cut into it to get the figs that you want. All right. So, and the point is that you're carrying the knife in order to cut the grogros. So then tavar be nami lechavis. So then once you're doing that, then you can also use that same knife for the chavis. And we'll see that this is a particular opinion. You may remember that we've had opinions before that say on Shabbos things are muksa except for when you're using it for the specific purpose for which it was created. So here you take the knife in order to cut the figs, and that allows you, now that you've taken the knife to cut the figs, it allows you to use the knife to open the to crack open the barrel. All right. But if those figs were loose, and so you would not need a knife, and therefore you don't need to cut them up in order to get to them, you would not be allowed to carry the knife in order to break open the chavis. Because our Mishnah is according to Reb Nechemia. And in fact, I think we saw in Reb Nechemia before that you can only use a vessel you can only take a vessel on Shabbos for the tashmish, for the purpose that it was specifically designated. So as a result, even though knives sometimes are used to bang open and crack open a barrel, because the primary use of a knife is to cut food, or this knife is to cut food, so you would not be allowed to use, if you didn't have to actually cut food at that moment, you would not be allowed to do it. So, okay, so now we're going to ask and understand what's going on here, okay? Before a dose low, is it really true that loose figs you would not be able to cut open with the knife? Maybe Adam es a chavis shel yayin matiz harosho b'sayik umenicha lifnei haorchim ve'enu choshish. 1 second, we have a brisa that almost deals with the exact kind of situation, that you can take a barrel full with wine and you can cut open its top with a sword, and then you can put it in front of your guests on Shabbos, and you don't have to worry about violating Shabbos. So that implies that the sword is not a problem. So Hahi Rabbanan Masdis and Rabbi Nechemia. So that brisa reflects the view of the sages, meaning that the point is that they have a different view about muksa. But our Mishnah is Rabbi Nechemia, who holds Ein Kli Nittel El Tashmish Hamiyuchalo. That's the principle. You're only allowed to take a Kli for the purpose that it's used for. Okay, so my duchake, the Rabbi Oshia lo ukme masdis and Rabbi Nechemia. Now, why did Rabbi Oshia say that it has to be set it up to be like Rabbi Nechemia? Ubidrusos, and say that we're dealing with pressed figs. Lukman beforados v'Rabbanan, let it be non-pressed figs, because all it said in our Mishnah, right? If we look back to the beginning of the Mishnah, it just said that there were grogros. It didn't say that they were pressed. So why does Rav Oshia say that they're definitely going to be pressed? Let it be not pressed, and therefore it'll follow even the Rabbanan. So Amarava Maslisin say, right? So the Rava said that the Mishnah poses a difficulty. Why? My area to sunny grogros. Why did the Mishnah specifically teach about figs? Lisne peros, it could be any kind of fruit inside. It could be the wine, where you definitely don't need it you would never need a sword or a knife to open the wine. Ella shma minadra bedrusos. So that's why Rav Oshia felt that it had to be talking about pressed figs. Okay? Is that clear? I think that's pretty clear.
Yes.
Okay, so Tanya Chada. Sorry?
I said, yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Good. Tanya, thank you. Tanya Chada. So now we have a brisa. Chosolos shel grogros shel tamarim matir. Right? So again, this is the concept of this is what allows us to open packages of food on Shabbos. So you can untie baskets of dried figs or dates, and you can unravel the rope, or you can even cut the rope. The Tanya Idach, and we learned in another brisa, matir avolo mafkiya v'lo chotek. You can untie, but you can't unravel or cut. So lo kasha harabanan harabi Nechemia, no difficulty. That's because the first one is the view of the Rabbanan, and the second one is review of Rabbi Nechemia. The Tanya, Rabbi Nechemia Omer, afilu tervad, va'afilu talis, va'afilu sakin, ein itolan el l'torok tashmishin. You're only allowed to handle them for their own specialized use. And so as a result, he's basically saying, the things that you would use to unravel or cut, you can't. Those things are not available for use on Shabbos because nothing has as its primary usage to cut rope that it would be permitted to be used on Shabbos. I mean, I guess the things that would use to cut rope might be muksa machmas klisham lachta. Okay, so as a result, you can't just take a knife and use that for that purpose, because again, every kli must be used according to Rav Nechemia only specifically for its intended purpose. Thankfully, we do not have that approach. That's not the way we paskin. All right, so now the Mishnah had said that you can take off the cask. The top of the cask on Shabbos, as long as you don't intend to make a proper opening. Again, as long as you're not intending to make a kli and not intending to make a kli. So now what are we going to say? By me name Rav Shesha. So they inquired of Rav Shesha. So we're going to talk about this topic. Maho lemivraz chavisa bevurta b'shabsa. So what about putting a spear? And I guess I'm still sharing this, so that works out nicely. So we got this barrel. Why don't I just put a spear right through it? And then that will make a nice, good hole, and we'll be great. Okay, so lefischa kamiskabin v'aser. Do we say that the person who's doing that spearing is trying to open a new cask and to create a new opening in the cask, and therefore his act is forbidden? Odilma la'ayin yafa k'mechavin v'shari. Or maybe he intends only to allow the wine to get out and to do so generously so that you can feed your guests nicely, and therefore it's permitted. So Amr Lahu, so Rav Shesha said back to them, Lefischa kamachavin v'aser. It must be that he's intending to make an opening, and therefore that's prohibited, because presumably the spear will create a nice round opening, and that's going to be a problem. So Meisvei, they challenged Rav Shesha's ruling from the following brisa: Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Omer, maybe Adam Chavis Shel Yayin, Umatiz Rosh Shabbos. If you can take the cask and cut off the top with the sword. So we saw that brisa a few moments ago, and so now we're going to ask from it. Hasam Vadai Layin Yavaka Maskabin. No, that case is okay, because clearly when you're taking off the whole top, you're intending for there to be a generous flow of wine. You want the wine to all be available. All right, so then here, however, with the spear, if it were so that if he really wanted a generous flow, let him open the cask by taking out the bung, this stopper. Okay, so given the fact that he didn't do that, that shows that he doesn't want to create too much of a flow, and so as a result, that's why it must be that he's making a new opening. So again, the distinction seems to be that if you want to make a new opening to something is going to be a problem. Of course, unstopping an opening is like opening a door. That's fine. But making a new opening, that's going to be a problem, unless it's clear that you want to either break the object or that you're or that you're doing it. Yeah, basically you're not using, the intention is not to have the cask sort of remain. So if you're going to open it in a way that says, oh, well, I'm not obviously going to use this as a storage vessel any longer, so then that's going to be when it's okay. But when you're going to still use it as a storage vessel, so then that's when opening it will be a problem. Okay, so ein nokvim agufa. So now the next piece of the Mishnah says we can't perforate the bung, right? We can't. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says, but the Rabbanan say it's okay. So Amar Rav Yehuda says machlokas lamala. So the debate about this is really when it's the top of the bung. So now, again, it's not completely clear to me what we're talking about, but again, here's the stopper, okay? But I think that actually it's best probably to think about it from the side. So imagine that right here, here there seems to be some kind of, let me see if I can get that picture.
Like a spout.
Yeah, some kind of spigot, right? So if you imagine that there was a plug over here, so the question is, if you put that plug, if you make when they debate about whether they can make the hole, where is the hole that we're talking about? So the machlokas lamala. So the dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and the sages concerns making a hole in the top. So that's right. Let's see if there's right. So right on this part of the stopper. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. But if it's on the side over here, so then everybody seems to say that it's prohibited. Okay. And that and this is indeed what the Mishnah means when it teaches in the name of the Tanaim. So lo yikvenu mitzida, one may not perforate in its side. Okay, but however, other people say this differently. So Rav Chisda says, Rav Chisda Amar, machlokas min hatzad. No, really, the machlokas is about the side. Okay, but on the top, everybody permits it. 1 second, but our Mishnah specifically says that one can't perforate it from on its side. No, so hasam the gufa de chavis. So it doesn't mean the side of the stopper. It means put another hole in the side over here. So here, everybody agrees that you can't put a hole in the side of the stop in the side of the barrel. But to put a hole over here, that would be okay. All right. So those are two different opinions in how we understand the machlokas in our Mishnah. Okay.
Unless you're trying to destroy the barrel or something, unless you don't need the right.
So yes, absolutely. If you're just trying to destroy the barrel,
Just get
right,
everything out.
and just get everything out, that's going to be the case that's definitely permitted. And if you're trying to make a new hole in the barrel and and you might be trying to get stuff out, but the point is you're making a new hole in the barrel, that's going to be definitely prohibited.
It's
And
counterintuitive in a certain
what?
way. It's kind of counterintuitive in a certain way.
Say more. Oh, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're doing more breaking.
You're doing more breaking, you're doing, which is okay, but because you're getting rid of you're destroying the object.
Correct.
But if you're just making a little change to it, you can't do that.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. It's an excellent point that you definitely could come into this thinking, oh, this breaking the whole thing requires a whole lot of work. This requires very little work, and yet the one that requires very little work ends up being worse than the thing that requires more work. Absolutely. This is obviously not the only situation where that's the case, but you're absolutely right that this is a good example of that. Okay, so Tana Rabban, the rabbis Tana Brisa, ain't no nekev chadash b'Shabbos. You can't make a new hole on Shabbos. But if you want to enlarge an existing hole, that's okay. But some say ain't mosifin. You're not allowed to add to a new hole, add to an existing hole. The shavin shenog b'nekev yashan lechatchila. But everybody agrees that it is completely okay to reopen an old hole. Okay?
You talk about barrels or anything?
I think that they're primarily talking about barrels, but I think it's for all intents and purposes, every vessel can be analogized to a barrel. So it's they're not specifically talking about barrels, but for all intents and purposes, everything can be, any non-barrel could be treated like a barrel. So
I have a can, something, right?
Right. So exactly. So if you have a can and you put the question is the issue is that people would say, right, if it's a disposable thing and you're putting a hole in it, and you're going to dispose of it, so then people would say that that's not going to be a problem because of the reason that we just said that you're effectively getting rid of it. So, but if your intention was to make a new hole in order to be able to use that can, absolutely that would be a problem. That's why if you open a can of tuna fish on Shabbos, you should not be saving those cans for usage to feed your cat, because that would be you saving it like making a kli, and so that would be a real problem. And that highlights again something that we've been seeing a lot very recently, how much the intention that we have with something makes a difference. Well, that just the having in mind, and of course it's really not surprising in Judaism that that's the case, because we have so much in that. Even the crazy thinking of when you're offering a sacrifice, that maybe I'll hold on to this sacrifice and eat it late, makes the sacrifice immediately not valid. So it's not like it's unusual that our thoughts can make such a difference, but this is again an amazing thing that just the way our intention is going to have such a big effect. Okay, so now we say the Tanakama, according to the Tanakama, who permits enlarging an existing hole, Maishna Menekev Chadash Dilo. Why can't you make a new hole? Dekamasak and Piska. Because in doing so, that's because you're making an opening. All right, so making an opening, that's a problem. Osvinami Kamasak and Piska. So one second, when you enlarge an existing hole, so then that is also improving, or in some ways it's making an opening. So why should that be allowed? Okay, so Amarabba Davar Torah Kol Pesach She'eno Asui Lahachnis V'Lahotzi Eno Pesach. So he's going to explain the reason. So in order for an opening to be considered an opening, it needs to be able to bring things in the container and take things out of the container. if it can't do both, and some people say it has to be able to do both at the same time on some level, but if you can't do both, so then it is not a true opening. Okay, the Rabbanan hu de gazer mishum lul shel tarnagolim. So now the rabbis say that who said that you can't create other kinds of openings, it's all because of these chicken coops. The avid yule aveira la puke hevla. Right, so the point is they would make holes in the chicken coop and the top on the roofs of the chicken coop in order to take air in, and so that chickens can breathe, and to take harmful vapors out. And so the Tanakama says that if one comes to enlarge an existing hole, he can do so. Osife badai, because for certainly, as in, when it comes to enlarging, the shul shall tarnagolim lo asila sufe. Nobody. So basically the logic is as follows. We're concerned about chicken coop owners. Apparently, that's the main. That if they would do something that would end up violating the Torah, then we're going to create a takana and create a gzera and say that you can't do it. But if we don't have to worry about them, so then we're not going to worry about it. So when it comes to enlarging, so the Tanakama says, look, no one who has a hole in a chicken coop is ever going to enlarge the chicken coop hole. Why? Turning over to Kofim Vavam and Bet. Because of either the bugs or little animals that are going to eat. Rashi explains, that these little bugs could go something like rats or weasels. They're going to come and they're going to kill the tarnagolim. All right, so we know you're not going to make too big a hole. All right, okay. So it's v'yesh omrim ein mosifin. Now some say that they don't. So now we've explained why the Tanakama permits, but then why do the other people forbid it? Okay, v'yesh omrim ein mosifin. So why do they say that you cannot enlarge? So zimnin the lo takne mikara, because sometimes one does not properly adjust the opening when he starts it. And so we're concerned that maybe the initial opening that the chicken coop owner would make would be too small, and he's going to, and then it wouldn't be able to get stuff in and out. And he's going to enlarge it. And as a result, if he's going to enlarge it, so then he'll now make it large enough for stuff to go in and out. And now all of a sudden he will have completed the hole that existed. And so as a result, if we allow the expansion of some holes, maybe a hole that wasn't big enough will be expanded. And now all of a sudden you'd have a hole that was that now allows things to go in and out. Again, so just because I know that this is very confusing. This is confusing to me. Sorry?
No, I mean, it's sort of saying like if one group of people, we don't want to make a distinction between different types of holes. If we're not going to allow it for one type of people, we're not going to make any distinction.
Exactly. And not only that, but the point is that the holes that are problematic can go two directions. And the problem is that if we allow expansion of holes, that expansion of holes might lead somebody who has a hole that currently allows one direction to now expand a hole that now will end up going in two directions. Okay? So, Darash Rav Nachman Mishum Rabbi Yochanan, Halakha Kiyeh Shomrim. So as a result, we cannot expand an existing hole on Shabbos based on the rabbinic prohibition.
Again, it's sort of counterintuitive to me.
It is somewhat counterintuitive.
Creating something new, a new hole would be worse than just taking something that exists already and just changing it a little bit.
That's correct. Well, no, remember, new holes are also going to be problematic. New holes are the only time that new holes are not problematic is if you're really breaking it and you're not making it a plate.
Right.
It's only an existing hole or right. So let's just go back to take a look and see,
Oh,
right?
okay,
So,
no, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Eno Gvim Nekev Chadash for Shabbat. Okay. All right. Sorry.
okay, no worries, no worries. It's like I said, this is ridiculously complicated. I mean, to try and now get from this to the halacha adds a whole nother level of complication. But this is, again, this what we're learning right now is the main source for all the halachot of opening and closing, opening containers on Shabbos, like opening a can of tuna fish on Shabbos. The shovin. Okay, so now we go back to the teaching that we did earlier from the Bryce. So the shovin shenogvin nekev yashan lechatchila, right? And everybody agrees that it's totally permitted to reopen an old hole. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel lo shanoel b'makom ha'asui l'shamar. That's only true that if the plug was in a place where it was meant to preserve the aroma of a lechazek, but if it was actually there to strengthen the cask, so then aser, then you cannot even remove the plug. Okay, so the Gemara wants to understand. What does that even mean? And what does that mean? What does it mean to preserve, and what does it mean to strengthen? So if the plug is above the level of the wine, that's just to preserve the wine's aroma. So if, however, it's below the surface of the wine, so that meant to strengthen the cask. Rava disagrees and says, even below the wine, surface level of the wine is also to preserve. But what does it mean to what's an example of a plug to strengthen? So kagon shenikva lamata min hashmarim. It's really essentially on the very bottom where the dregs are. So then what essentially it's saying is that in those situations, that is not meant to be something that is going to be taken out and put back. That in that location, it's meant to stay there. It's not really an opening. And so as a result, if you were to open it, even though it is technically an opening and has one of these kind of corks there, it presumably was put in so well because it had to deal with the pressure that essentially opening it is created like opening something new. Okay, so now Abaye, Amrle Abaye l'Rava. Abaye says to Rava, Tanya de B'snayalach. There's a brisa that supports what you say. Bias susum. If you have a sealed house, yeshlo arba amos. So a sealed house is, we're referring to a situation where the halachas of when you divide a courtyard. So if you have a sealed house, a door that has a seal on it, so then yeshlo arba amos. Even that sealed door still gets the benefit of when you divide up the courtyard, that you are entitled, according to the Gemara and Bava Basra, that you're still entitled to have 4 amos of space around where you are. So as a result, if you have a courtyard, and now you're dividing the courtyard between 2 residents in the courtyard, so you, in addition to whatever splitting of the space exists, you would always be ensured that you would have 4 amos opposite your door, so that you have free egress and
it's like your property line.
Exactly. That now, because the courtyard itself is a shared space, and so now if the 2 people who are sharing that space decide that they're going to divide it, each person first gets the part that's opposite their door to be associated with them, and then anything beyond that gets divided. And so the point is that even if the door was sealed, you still get your arba amos. But paratis ptzimav, if you actually tore the door frame out and now it's sealed, ein lo arba amos. In that case, you don't get it. Brisa continues, bayit satum, a house that has that had with a dead body in it. Now it's talking about that is closed off. Again, Eino Matame Kol Svivav. The important concept is that a grave has a special rabbinic circumference area around it of 4 amos, that if you come within that 4 amos, you become tameh, because we didn't want people to accidentally go too close. So as a result, the rabbi said you're going to be tameh, according to us, if you get too close. So, but if it's just sealed, meaning if the door is closed and in a permanent way, but the frame still exists, so then it does not render tameh, eino matame kol svivav. It doesn't make tameh those who go within 4 amos of it from the sides. But paras it's psimav, again, if you pour down the frame of the door, so now matame kol svivav. So now the whole house becomes effectively the grave, and so as a result, 4 amos around the entire house becomes mitame is kol svivav. So then it now becomes impure as others. And so again, the idea is that if you put it in a way that is to strengthen, that's like you are tearing down the door frame, and so it's meant to be permanent. That's the idea. Okay, so we have now, the new concept that we now took away is that if you have a permanent stopper, so that doesn't count as a place that you could make a hole on Shabbos, because it was viewed as a permanent stopper, and so you're not allowed to do that. All right, so now we talked about opening and making holes in the corks. Let's take a look more at that. So gufsa, a spigot. Rav Asar, Rav says it's forbidden to create it, but Shmuel Shari, Shmuel says it's permitted. All right, so the Gemara now explains what's really going on. And we're talking about, you have reeds, and the reeds are going to be punctured into the into that cork, and now as a result of the reed being in the cork, you have an easy spout to get stuff out of it. Okay, to get stuff out of the barrel. So clearly, if you cut to the initial cutting of the reed, everybody knows that that's going to be forbidden. A hadure, right? If you already had the spigot and it just fell out, and all you're doing is putting it back, so then everybody would agree that that's going to be permitted. Right? So when you have it cut and it's ready, but it's not, but you haven't yet fixed it into the barrel. In that situation, one is going to prohibit man de asar gazrin and dilma asar lemichtaf lechatchila. Maybe you're going to come and cut the reed in the first place. Uman de shari lo gazrinan, and the one who says that it's permitted says, look, that's an extra step. You're not necessarily going to go that extra step, and so therefore he would permit it. And the Gemara notes that Ketanai, this is actually a machlokas Tanayim. Ein chotken shoferes b'yom tov. On Yom Tov, we cannot cut a tube to create a spigot for a cask. Ein tzarich lomer b'Shabbos, and of course you can't do it on Shabbos. Nafla machzir nosa b'Shabbos. If it falls out, so then you can put it back on Shabbos. Ein tzarich lomer b'Yom Tov, and certainly you can put it back on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yoshia Mekel, and Rabbi Yoshia rules leniently. What does that mean? Rabbi Yoshia Ahaya? What does he mean that Rabbi Yoshia rules leniently? Ilema Reisha, if you say it's talking about the beginning, Ha Kamasakin Mana, then if you're talking about the fact that you can cut a tube down to size in order to fit it into the hole, so that's Ha Kamasakin Mana, that's making a vessel. That's definitely going to be prohibited. Ella Seva. And now you're going to say maybe it's going to be on the end of it. Tana Kama Nami Mishra Kashari. Everybody is putting it back when it falls out. So what is he adding? Of course it's permitted. Ella dechatika below metakana ika banaihu. Really, what's the difference? It's where the tube has been cut already, but has not yet been placed into the barrel. So Mar Shavar Gazrinan, one says that we do have a gzeira and forbid it. Umar Savar Lo Gazrina. And the other one says, no, we don't forbid it. So Gemara concludes, Darish Rav Shisha Brei de Rav Idi, Mishmei de Rav Yochanan, Rav Shisha Brei, son of Rav Idi, said in the name of Rav Yochanan, Halacha Rav Yoshia. Halacha is like Rav Yoshia, who's lenient to use Mako and says that you can put it in. Okay, so now the next piece of the Mishnah. So V'im Haisa Nekuva, right? I think that was pretty clear. That wasn't such a complicated piece. Okay, V'im Haisa Nekuva. Now, if the cask, had a hole in it, and now you want to make wax and put the wax on the hole, we said you can't do it, okay? So Mishka, regarding the use of thick oil, how about that? Can we use that to plug a cask? I'm not really sure what it means by this thick oil, because usually thick oil is too viscous to actually plug anything, but maybe you're just...
maybe some Vaseline,
Like, oh, yeah, it could be. It could be Vaseline, yeah. So Rav Asar, Rav prohibits, Shmuel Shari. Shmuel says it's permitted. Manda Asar Gazrina Mishum Shaba. One who prohibits it says that you're too likely to come and use wax if we allow it. Manda Shari Lo Gazrina. And the other one who says that it's permitted says it's okay because it's not, you're not gonna come to use wax. All right. Now the Gemara says that maybe the positions are reversed. So Amrle Rav Shmuel Bar Chana Rav Yosef the Ferish Amrat Lan Mishmei de Rav Mishka Shari. Right. You specifically told us in the name of Rav that using the thick oil is permitted. So maybe the Rav position is the permissive one, and the Shmuel position is the stricter one. All right. So Amar Tavus Rishba Amar Shmuel Tavus Rishba said in the name of Shmuel, Hai Tarpa de Asar Asar. Excuse me. Hai Tarpa de Asar Asar. Right. If you try to use myrtle leaves and plug them into a barrel hole, that is forbidden. My time. What's the reason for the prohibition? Rav Yemer Medifti Amar. Rav Yemer from Difti says, that we're concerned that you're going to make a gutter. So it's a little confusing. What does that mean that you're going to make a gutter? So the point is that that in order to stop up the barrel with the myrtle leaves, you will need to fold them and smush them in. Okay, but part of that process is folding them in a way that essentially allows them to be like a gutter, and so we're concerned. I really don't get this. It's not so simple why that would be the concern, but we're concerned that you're going to make some kind of gutter form, and as a result, you're going to see that, oh, this makes a great gutter. I'm going to use this as like not a spigot, but a funnel or something along those lines, and you're going to end up creating that kind of object if we allow you to fold the leaves and plug it into the hole. Ravashi Amar. What?
Sense, because if it's in a gutter, then it's not going to be a stop. It's not going to work as to stop it. The wine is going to come out.
Yeah, well, so clearly I'm hearing you totally. Clearly the concept is that in order to stuff up the hole, either they would use multiple leaves, or what I'm envisioning is that the leaf is like this. You have to fold the leaf in order, and then fold the leaf and then put it in like that along the fold, and then presumably the fold opens a little bit so that now it's stopped. That's how I'm envisioning it. And so as a result, the process of folding will make you think along the lines of, hey, we can use this as some kind of gutter. And by the way, they don't mean gutter like the gutter on a home. They mean just or a gutter on the side of the street. They mean sort of like just an open path that water could flow along. All right, and Ravashi says no, Gzeira Shema Yikta. No, which makes a ton more sense. The concern is that you're going to pluck it. So my benaya, what's the difference between the two different opinions? So Ika benaya, there's a difference because diktim min umanchi. If you already have enough plucked leaves ahead of time, and so then in that case maybe you'd be allowed to make it. Okay. I have to admit that this is not just so clear to me, like what the practical uses of these leaves were and why precisely that it's prohibited. It's not simple. Even if you read the explanations in Art Scroll, it just doesn't. It's not like it's that makes perfect sense. None of that. It doesn't just. It is what it is, but there you go. All right, so the Gemara now begins a new discussion. So, Kisaja. All right, so now we have the question of, I'm not exactly sure how they got to this, but we got this felt padding. So Rav Asa, Rav says that it's prohibited. You cannot use it to wrap it and wrap yourself in it and walk in public because that would be carrying. Ushmuel Shari, but Shmuel permits it. Okay. So now that again, I guess the clarification, the why it's being brought here is because we have a machlokus between Rav and Shmuel, where Rav says something is usher and Shmuel says something is permitted, and then we have some explanation to explain what's going on. So that's the connection, and of course it all relates to Shabbos. But okay, so what are we talking about? Barakin. If we were talking about soft felt pligi, the shari, everybody would agree that that's permissible. The kashin, when it comes to hard felt, then the kuliyamalo pligi the asr, everybody would agree that would be prohibited. Again, it would be permitted because everybody recognizes that could be a cloak. You can use it as a cloak. But if it's stiff, then you can't use it as a cloak, and so it's clearly intended to be carried. Keep ligivim inside. Where they disagree is in the middle case. Manda asar mechse kamasoy, where the one who prohibits says it looks like you're carrying. Manda shari lo mechse b'masoy, but the other one says no, it doesn't look like carrying. V'ha de Rav la b'ferishitmar. Now that with respect to Rav, who supposedly he actually prohibited it, he never actually explicitly said that he prohibited it. Ela meklala imar. Rather, we learned it from an inference. The Rav ikla lahu asra de lo havala rabba, because he happened to come to a certain place where there was not enough room for everyone to sit. Nafek Yosef Carmelis, so he left the house and sat in an adjacent Carmelis. Aisule Beisaja, right? So the students then brought him some felt padding to sit on below Yosef, and he didn't sit on them. And so why didn't he sit on them? Presumably he didn't sit on them because they were carrying for his benefit, and as a result he didn't want to benefit from their doing something wrong on Shabbos. So Manda Chazasavar, now someone who observed Rav to do this concluded, Mishum Devar Debay Saja Asr, he must have thought that because carrying felt padding was was prohibited. Below but in fact, this is not the case. The Rav Achruze Machriz Beisaja Shari, right? Because in fact, Rav declared publicly that wearing felt padding is permissible. Umishum Kavod Rabbeinu Lo Yashav. And so, why didn't he sit down? It was because there were other rabbis there, and he felt like they didn't bring out enough for everybody, and so as a result, he didn't want to sit down on the stuff they brought out for him. Uman Ninhu, and who were these other rabbis? Rav Kahana and Ravasi. It was Rav Kahana and Ravasi. Okay, so that's the story. Now we're on the next Mishnah. Nosnin Tavshil L'toch Habor Bishvil Sheyehei Shamor. Right, so you can put a cooked dish in a in a pit in order that it may be preserved. Everything that we're going to do in this first part of the Mishnah is going to have to be explained in the Gemara. Okay, so es hamayim hayofim berayim b'shvil sheyitzsananu, and you can put some good water into stale water in order that it cool off. And you can put some cold water in the sun in order for it to be warm. Okay, so all these things are going to be explained tomorrow. So right? So if your clothes fell in some water while you were walking, you can continue walking while wearing those clothing, and you don't have to worry that people are going to say that maybe you laundered your clothing on Shabbos. But when you arrive at the outermost courtyard, you can spread them out in the sun in order to dry them, but not in front of people. And we're going to deal with the issue of Maris Ayin as we go along. Okay, so now the Mishnah is, yes?
I'm too tired to go. I'm done. I just can't do it anymore.
Okay, all right, no worries. We'll stop here. We'll pick up tomorrow morning, 100%. I'm totally fine with that. That is totally good. Especially since we're working tomorrow. So, in fact, we'll start again with the Gemara, with the Mishnah tomorrow morning.
Yes, let's call it today. Let's call it a night.
What was that?
Let's call it a night.
We'll call it a night. Okay, you got it. I've got Baruch Hashem. Hashem gave me a good amount of endurance, and so. But I look forward to learning with you tomorrow morning. It's only 9 hours away. No, 10 hours away. All right. See.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Have a very good night.
Yes.
Bye-bye.